Perfect unstoppable force. Is it worth it? Big question. First off, I need to state that I don't actually have a worthwhile backpack of this yet to do some in-game testing. However, testing through the game and testing through math isn't too dissimilar as long as you know what you're doing. So hopefully this will suffice for now, simply just because trying to farm this bloody backpack is bloody irritating. Now, much like my cat trying to start a fight with my microphone, I knew exactly where this was going to go. But hopefully this video will be of some interest and at least a little bit informative for you. Now, I will be doing these calculations assuming that I am always at max obliterate stacks, as well as always at max Hunter's Fury stacks. This just makes it easier. The difference is mostly going to be how quick you're actually able to stack obliterate or whatever else talent you are using. However, that being said, there's not really that much in it. Like, it's kind of silly the way in which this backpack has entered the game. And what I mean by this is, if you actually just play with a little bit of intelligence and a little bit of common sense and you apply this, the backpack is dead in the water. There's no point it actually existing. There's like maybe a few builds that could potentially have a worth with this backpack, and that's simply just because of how quickly they would be able to get as well as maintain the overall stack of unstoppable force. But then the difference is mostly negligible and pointless in the first place. So the build I was going to test this with is 4-piece Hunter's Fury, a Sokolov backpack, a Grupo chest with obliterate, and obviously the Sokolov backpack has unstoppable force. It's basically crit chance, crit damage everywhere. Ouroboros, because you know it's the new shiny toy, and all we're going to do is swap out the backpack for perfect unstoppable. This basically means that we're replacing 10% SMG damage with 20% explosive resistance. So let's place bets. Where do we think perfect unstoppable force actually beats normal unstoppable force? Well, this is the with 0 stacks. So essentially the only difference here is one has 10% SMG damage, one doesn't. And as you can see, there's like a 4% difference between them. On one stack, there is approximately a 3% difference between them. On 2 stacks, 2-ish%, 1.5% difference between them. So we're on 2 stacks already, and normal unstoppable force is still winning. Now, annoyingly, it is only really about 3 stacks where things start to look a little bit interesting. Hopefully we can see here that at this point perfect unstoppable has a 46% total weapon damage, where normal unstoppable is still at 40. This is just the way the cookie crumbles due to the actual talent. However, they're mostly even, but still, even in this regard, normal unstoppable force is still winning, albeit by 0.06%. So alas, we have now come to the part you have all inevitably been waiting for, and that is 4 stacks, where a perfect unstoppable force finally beats normal unstoppable force. Now granted, one thing I do need to add as a sort of disclaimer here, this is assuming that you have a total weapon damage talent on your chest. It gets a little bit different if you have something like glass cannon on your chest, and of course it also becomes different if you have a non-damage talent on your chest. I am just generalizing here. And then finally at 5 stacks we do 2.22% more with perfect unstoppable. Now the thing that's going to possibly confuse people when I say this is the issue with all of this is that unstoppable force is an on-kill talent, which basically means your first 1 or 2 stacks, well, your damage without the stacks is actually the most important. However, the more stacks you get, the less important all of it is, because in order to get the first stack, you're going to need pretty decent kill time anyway, or the ability to at least kill. Then with the second stack, or the first stack rather, then with the first stack, Obviously, this is going to bolster your ability to kill, but the difference is also going to be more important. Once you're kind of at your 5 stacks, it should be very evident at this point that you having the ability to kill isn't exactly something that's difficult to gain those stacks and then maintain those stacks. Which basically means that from the start, where normal unstoppable force was doing near enough 4% more without stacks, to then having perfect unstoppable force at max stacks doing just over 2% more, this should really give you sort of like an insight as to how not worth it perfect unstoppable force is. Now, the part where this actually gets really annoying is, as I alluded to earlier, when you add in a different talent or remove the chest talent altogether. A good example of this is actually just utilizing no talent, simply just because if you're going to add something like glass cannon, the differences are actually going to be the same, just it rather than being down here, it like just all moves up 25%. It's an amplifier. That's just how amps work. So what actually happens here, and this will just be the cutaway from just removing obliterate, and as you can see at no stacks, obviously normal was going to do more because Sokolov. At 1 stack, closing in already, perfect unstoppable force closing the gap. 2 stacks, they're nearly even already, there's like less than 1% in it. At 3 stacks, perfect unstoppable force does just under 1% more. 4 stacks, perfect unstoppable force now does 2.2% more, which was our previous, and then at 5 stacks we get 3.5% more. Now, just in case you're not picking up what I'm putting down, what I'm saying is perfect unstoppable force is technically a very bad talent unless you either don't run a chest talent that is damaging, in which case your overall build is going to be worse anyway, because at that point you are comparing what is essentially going to be 35% total weapon damage versus on the previous build 50% total weapon damage and 10% SMG damage. Guess what one's going to win in this area? Or you run glass cannon. That's like it. If you want perfect unstoppable force to be good, you either can't run a chest talent that does any form of damage, so we're talking like unbreakable here. Now I'm aware some people will like this. However, if not, you're kind of forced to use an amplifier, which is glass cannon, or being your best bet. That's it. Sucks. Now, with all that being said, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that is this build. Simply just because it makes use of everything I've basically just said. 4-piece negotiators, we're able to stack very quickly, because getting a kill through the negotiator's transfer does count towards unstoppable force. So we're able to build up those unstoppable force stacks very quickly. We are also going to be using a Gruppo chest, because we need them crits, with glass cannon. This does actually end up being one of the most powerful builds in the game by far. Like, in terms of performance, it's akin to Headhunter Regulus. It's not as quick, but this literally does become like the second quickest thing in killing in the game. It's kind of ridiculous how powerful it actually is. Now again though, with this build, if you wanted to go that route, there's kind of also no compromise. You either play with glass cannon or you pick a different build if you're going to go this route. There are 2 critical hit chance rolls on it, both the chest and backpack. These will put you to 68% crit chance on the Ouroboros. I am keeping them there, despite the fact that we are overrolled on crit with Ouroboros. It does also mean that if we need to and we want to use a secondary weapon, preferably an AR, we actually still have crit values in there, because one thing I've noticed changing all of my builds to Ouroboros lately is just how crit starved my secondary weapon is going to become. Now for a lot of people they'll be like, oh, this doesn't matter, why are you using your secondary weapon? Ouroboros is OP. Yeah, Ouroboros is OP, but Ouroboros also eats ammo like I eat fucking chocolate. Anyway, that is just about going to do it for this video. Have fun, good luck, don't die. bad for the health.